That morning I woke up to the sound of ocean waves instead of church bells. Sitting on this pristine beach in Bali, watching my phone light up with 47 missed calls, I felt something I had never experienced before: complete peace while my family was falling apart. 6 months ago, my sister Madison had decided I was not good enough for her perfect wedding. But sometimes life has its own way of serving justice. As I sipped my coconut water and watched the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, I realized that being excluded from the wrong celebration had led me to find myself in the most beautiful place on earth. Before I tell you about how a trip to Bali changed everything, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt abandoned by your own family, and do not forget to subscribe for more real stories like this. Because this is the first time I am sharing about the day my entire family needed me most, but I was halfway around the world, finally putting myself first. Let me take you back to where this all started. My name is Rosanna, and I am 28 years old. Growing up in our suburban Connecticut home, I was always the odd one out. My father, Richard, 55, works in finance, and my mother, Susan, 53, is a real estate agent. Both of them are practical, ambitious people who value appearances and social status above almost everything else. Then there is my sister Madison, 25, who has always been their golden child. Madison is everything our parents wanted in a daughter. She is stunning with her long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, successful as a marketing manager at a prestigious firm in Manhattan, and she has always known exactly how to charm everyone around her. I, on the other hand, am a freelance graphic designer who works from home, has brown hair that I usually keep in a messy bun, and prefers reading books to attending social gatherings. Throughout our childhood, Madison got the bigger birthday parties, the nicer clothes, and definitely more attention from our parents. I remember one particular Christmas when I was 16 and Madison was 13. I had saved up all my babysitting money to buy our parents a custom photo album filled with family memories. Madison bought them each a simple gift card. Guess whose gift got more praise and excitement? Madison had chosen the more expensive stores, they said. She understood what they really wanted, they said. My heartfelt creation was nice, but not quite as thoughtful. That was the moment I realized that in our family, effort and love would always come second to status and appearance. When Madison announced her engagement to Derek last spring, I was genuinely happy for her. Derek is 29, a corporate lawyer from old money with a family that owns property in the Hamptons and a trust fund that could probably buy our entire neighborhood. He is tall, handsome, and everything our parents had ever dreamed of in a son-in-law. When Madison called to tell me about the proposal, she was crying happy tears and asked me to be her chief bridesmaid. I threw myself into wedding planning with all the love and creativity I had. The wedding was set for June 15th, with a guest list of 200 people at an exclusive venue in the Hamptons. The budget was $80,000, and every detail had to be perfect. I designed beautiful custom invitations with hand-lettered calligraphy, organized a bridal shower that took me weeks to plan, and spent countless hours helping Madison choose everything from her dress to the centerpieces. For months, I felt closer to my sister than I had in years. We would spend hours on the phone discussing flower arrangements and menu options. She would come over to my apartment, and we would look through bridal magazines together like we used to look at picture books when we were kids. I started to believe that maybe this wedding would finally bring us together as the sisters I had always hoped we could be. But then Derek started becoming more involved in the planning, and everything began to change. Suddenly, Madison was asking me to run every idea past Derek first. She stopped making decisions without consulting him, and worse, without consulting his mother, Barbara. Barbara is one of those women who speaks with a transatlantic accent that sounds fake, wears pearls every day, and has opinions about everything from the proper way to set a table to the appropriate social circles for young professionals. The first real warning sign came during a family dinner in March. Derek brought Barbara to meet us, and I could immediately sense her disapproval. She looked around our middle-class home with barely concealed disdain, commented on how quaint our neighborhood was, and asked me several pointed questions about my career prospects as a freelancer. When I mentioned that I was working on a logo design for a local bakery, she actually laughed and said something about how creative pursuits were wonderful hobbies. Madison, who would normally have defended me, just sat there quietly. When Barbara made a comment about how important it was for wedding parties to reflect the social standing of the families involved, I saw Madison nod in agreement. That night after Derek and Barbara left, I tried to talk to Madison about how uncomfortable the evening had been. She brushed off my concerns and said I was being too sensitive. Over the following weeks, I noticed Madison pulling away from me. She stopped calling as often, and when she did, our conversations were shorter and more distant. She started making wedding decisions without including me, and when I asked about details I thought we had already settled, she would tell me that Derek and Barbara had different ideas. The worst part was that our parents seemed completely supportive of this shift. They were so impressed by Derek's family background that they were willing to let Barbara essentially take over planning their daughter's wedding. The breaking point came on a cold Tuesday evening in March, 3 months before the wedding. Madison called me at 10 p.m., and I could tell immediately from her tone that something was wrong. Her voice was cold and formal, nothing like the warm, excited sister who had asked me to be her chief bridesmaid. She told me that after many discussions with Derek and his family, they had decided that I should step down from being the chief bridesmaid. In fact, I was being removed from the wedding party entirely. I would still be invited as a guest, she said, but Derek's family felt that having me in such a prominent position might not be the right fit for the image they wanted to project. I was stunned into silence for a moment, then asked her what she meant by the right image. Madison sighed and said that Derek's family moved in very specific social circles, and they felt that my freelance career and general lifestyle might not align with the tone they wanted for the wedding. Barbara had suggested that the wedding party should consist only of Madison's college sorority sisters and Derek's female cousins, all of whom came from similar backgrounds. When I asked Madison if this was really what she wanted, she paused for a long time. Then she said something that I will never forget. She told me that I had always been dramatic and that I had never understood how important this day was for her future. She said that Derek's family connections could open doors for her career, and she could not afford to have anything jeopardize those opportunities. She needed me to be supportive and understand that sometimes sacrifices had to be made for the bigger picture. I tried to remind her of everything I had done for this wedding. The months of planning, the money I had spent, the time I had invested in making her day perfect. I told her about the custom bridesmaid dress I had already ordered, the bridal shower I had organized, the bachelorette party I had been planning. Madison listened to all of this, and then said that she appreciated my efforts, but this decision was final. When I hung up the phone, I was shaking with anger and hurt. I immediately called our parents, hoping they would be as outraged as I was. Instead, my father said that maybe it was for the best, and that this was Madison's day, not mine. My mother added that I should try to understand how important this wedding was for Madison's future, and that family sometimes meant making sacrifices for each other. I realized in that moment that I was completely alone. My entire family was willing to throw me aside for the approval of people who looked down on us. I had spent my whole life trying to earn a place in this family, and now I was being told that I was not good enough even for that. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I went online and booked a 2-week trip to Bali, with my departure date set for June 14th, the day before Madison's wedding. I chose a resort in Ubud, surrounded by rice terraces and far from any major city. I specifically looked for a place with limited Wi-Fi and no television in the rooms. I wanted to disappear completely. I did not tell anyone about my plans. I simply left a note on my kitchen counter that said, "Gone to find myself where I am actually wanted." I arranged for my neighbor to collect my mail, put my freelance projects on hold, and packed a single suitcase with comfortable clothes and books. The flight to Bali was the longest journey I had ever taken, and every mile felt like freedom. As the plane took off from JFK Airport, I turned off my phone and decided that for the next 2 weeks, the drama of my family's life would exist without me. I was going to focus on discovering who I was, when I was not constantly trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The resort in Ubud was even more beautiful than the pictures online. My room overlooked emerald rice terraces that stretched to the horizon, and the only sounds were birds singing and wind rustling through palm trees. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I signed up for morning yoga classes, afternoon cooking lessons, and meditation sessions at sunset. On my third day, I met Emma, a 32-year-old solo traveler from Australia, who was taking a break from her corporate job in Sydney. Emma had the kind of confidence I had always admired, the ability to walk into any situation and make friends immediately. We bonded over our shared love of adventure and our mutual need to escape from lives that had become suffocating. Emma and I spent our days exploring temples, hiking through jungle paths, and having long conversations about life, family, and the courage it takes to choose yourself over other people's expectations. For the first time in years, I felt like I was having experiences that belonged entirely to me, unmarked by family drama or the need to prove my worth to anyone. On June 15th, Madison's wedding day, I woke up in my beautiful Balinese resort room and spent the morning on a temple tour with Emma. Because of the time difference, it was evening in Connecticut, which meant the wedding would be starting soon. I had turned my phone back on the night before more out of habit than any real desire to reconnect with the drama I had left behind. Around 11 a.m., Bali time, which was 11 p.m. The night before the wedding in Connecticut, my phone started buzzing with calls and messages. At first there were just a few which I assumed were last-minute attempts to guilt me into coming home. I ignored them and continued with my temple tour, listening to our guide explain the spiritual significance of the ancient stone carvings. But as the day progressed, the calls kept coming. By noon I had 23 missed calls from various family members. By 2 p.m. that number had doubled. Emma noticed my phone buzzing constantly and suggested I at least check to see what was happening. Something this urgent, she said, might be a real emergency. When I finally looked at my messages, the first thing I saw was a text from my mother sent at 6 a.m. Connecticut time, just hours before the wedding was supposed to start. It said, "Derek is gone. Call us immediately. Madison needs you." I scrolled through more messages and found increasingly frantic voicemails from my father. The first one, left at 6:15 a.m., was relatively calm. He said there had been some complications with the wedding and they needed me to call back as soon as possible. By the third voicemail, left an hour later, he was almost shouting. He said that Derek had disappeared, the wedding was canceled, and Madison was asking for me. Emma sat next to me as I listened to message after message from family members, family friends, and even some of Madison's bridesmaids. Slowly, the story of what had happened began to emerge. Derek had left a note for Madison on the morning of their wedding day. The note, which my mother read to me in a shaky voice over voicemail, explained that Derek had been having an affair with his co-worker Julia for 8 months. He said he could not go through with marrying Madison when he was in love with someone else, and he was sorry for the timing, but he had to follow his heart. Madison had discovered the note at 7 a.m., just 4 hours before guests were supposed to arrive at the church. She had called Derek's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She had called his apartment, but there was no answer. His best man told her that Derek had mentioned needing some time to think, but he had assumed it was just normal pre-wedding nerves. By 8 a.m., it was clear that Derek was not coming back. Madison had to call the church, the reception venue, the caterer, the photographer, and all 200 wedding guests to let them know that the wedding was canceled. Many guests were already on their way to the Hamptons. Some had flown in from other states. The humiliation was devastating. But the worst part, according to the voicemails I was receiving, was Derek's family's reaction. Barbara had apparently told my parents that while she felt sorry for Madison, the family could not be held responsible for Derek's personal decisions. She said that all deposits and payments made to vendors were Madison's responsibility, not theirs, and that they would not be contributing to any costs associated with canceling the wedding. The voicemail that broke my heart was from Madison herself. She had called me at what must have been the lowest moment of her life, and her voice was barely recognizable through her tears. She said, "Rosie, I am so sorry about everything. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I need my sister. I need the one person who always loved me for who I really am, not for what I could do for them. Please do not abandon me like Derek did. Please come home." Emma watched my face as I listened to these messages, and when I finished, she asked me what I wanted to do. The old me would have immediately booked the next flight home, rushing to rescue my family from a crisis they had created through their own shallow priorities. But sitting there in this peaceful place, surrounded by the beauty and serenity I had found for myself, I realized that this was my chance to rewrite the dynamic that had defined my entire relationship with my family. I decided to call Madison back, but I was going to do it on my own terms. When she answered, she was still crying, and for the first time in months, she sounded like my little sister instead of the image-conscious woman she had become. She told me about waking up to find Derek's note about having to face 200 guests and tell them there would be no wedding, about realizing that the man she thought loved her had been living a lie for 8 months. But she also told me something else. She said that Derek's family had shown their true colors during this crisis. When she needed support the most, they had distanced themselves from her, protecting their own reputation, while leaving her to deal with the financial and emotional aftermath alone. She realized that they had never really accepted her, and that Derek had been trying to change her into someone they could approve of, just like she had tried to change me. Madison apologized for choosing their approval over our sisterhood. She admitted that she had known how wrong it was to exclude me from the wedding, but she had been so desperate to fit into Derek's world that she had been willing to sacrifice anyone who did not match their image of perfection. She said that losing me had been practice for Derek leaving her, and she finally understood what it felt like to be abandoned by someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally. I listened to all of this, and instead of immediately offering comfort, I told Madison something I had never said before. I said that I needed her to understand that love should not require anyone to make themselves smaller. I told her that I had spent our entire childhood competing for scraps of affection that should have been freely given, and that I was done with that dynamic. If we were going to rebuild our relationship, it had to be based on mutual respect, not just crisis management. After that phone call, I made a decision that surprised even me. Instead of immediately flying home to rescue my family, I decided to stay in Bali for the remaining week of my planned trip. But I also made another decision that would change everything. I told Madison that if she wanted to, she could join me in Bali for the rest of my stay. I explained to her that I had found something beautiful and healing in this place, and that maybe what she needed was not to go back to the same environment where she had lost herself, but to take some time to remember who she was before Derek and his family started reshaping her. I told her I would help her handle the practical matters of canceling vendors and returning gifts, but I would do it from Bali, and she would have to decide whether she wanted to join me or stay home and let our parents manage the aftermath. Madison was quiet for a long time, and then she said something that shocked me. She said she had never made a major life decision without consulting our parents, Derek, or someone else who supposedly knew better than she did. The idea of flying to Bali to be with her sister was the first thing that had sounded right to her in months. While Madison arranged her emergency passport renewal and booked a flight, I spent the next 2 days using my graphic design skills to help her handle the immediate crisis. I created tasteful cancellation notices for the remaining vendors, designed a template for returning wedding gifts with personalized thank you notes, and helped her draft emails to explain the situation to friends and extended family members. The work felt good in a way that wedding planning never had. Instead of creating something designed to impress Derek's family, I was using my skills to help my sister navigate a genuine crisis with dignity and grace. For the first time, my talents were being valued for their practical worth rather than dismissed as frivolous hobbies. When Madison arrived in Bali 3 days later, she looked like a different person. The perfectly styled hair and designer clothes had been replaced by a simple ponytail and comfortable travel clothing. She looked exhausted and heartbroken, but she also looked real in a way I had not seen in years. Emma, who had extended her own stay to support both of us, suggested that we spend the remaining days of our trip not talking about Derek or the wedding or any of the drama back home, but instead focusing on rediscovering who Madison was when she was not trying to be perfect for someone else. We spent our days taking cooking classes, learning traditional Balinese arts and crafts, and having the kind of honest conversations that sisters should have, but that we had never made time for. During one of our sunset meditation sessions, Madison told me that she had always envied my independence and creativity even while she was criticizing them. She said that she had spent so much time trying to become the person our parents wanted her to be that she had forgotten how to want things for herself. Derek's abandonment had been devastating, but it had also been a wake-up call about how much of herself she had sacrificed to meet other people's expectations. We talked about our childhood and the ways our parents had unconsciously pitted us against each other. Madison admitted that she had always felt the pressure to be perfect to earn love through achievement and appearance, while she had watched me struggle to get any attention at all. She realized that neither of us had been truly seen or valued for who we actually were. On our last night in Bali, Madison and I made a pact. We agreed that when we went back home, we would support each other in setting boundaries with our parents and anyone else who tried to make us choose between family loyalty and self-respect. We decided that we would take regular sister trips, just the two of us, to maintain the connection we had rediscovered in this beautiful place. When our parents called that final evening, begging us both to come home immediately, Madison surprised everyone by calmly telling them that we would return when we were ready, and that when we did, some things would be different. She told them that she would not be moving back into their house, that she would be taking time to figure out what she wanted to do with her life, and that they needed to be prepared for both of their daughters to start speaking up for themselves. The plane ride home was completely different from my flight to Bali. Instead of running away from my family, I was returning to them with my sister by my side and a clear understanding of my own worth. Madison and I talked for hours about our plans for the future, and for the first time in our lives, those plans included each other as allies rather than competitors. When we landed at JFK Airport, our parents were waiting for us with tears in their eyes and what looked like genuine remorse. The conversation that followed was not easy, but it was honest. Madison and I had learned how to communicate as adults during our time in Bali, and we were not willing to go back to being children competing for approval. Over the following months, our family dynamics slowly but significantly changed. Madison moved into her own apartment and took time off work to figure out what kind of career would actually make her happy rather than just impress other people. Our parents began attending family therapy sessions, where they had to confront the ways their favoritism and focus on appearances had damaged both of their daughters. 6 months after the canceled wedding, Madison started dating Sam, a high school teacher, who valued her kindness and intelligence over her social connections. Sam is nothing like Derek. He is warm, genuine, and completely uninterested in status or appearances. When Madison brought him to family dinner for the first time, he spent most of the evening asking me about my graphic design work and genuinely listening to my answers. As for me, my business flourished after I returned from Bali, with a new sense of confidence and self-worth. Word spread about the beautiful work I had done helping Madison handle her wedding crisis, and I started getting referrals from other people who needed sensitive, creative solutions to difficult situations. I moved into my own apartment, started charging what my work was actually worth, and began saying no to projects and people who did not value what I brought to the table. Madison and I now take a sister trip every few months, just the two of us. Sometimes we go somewhere exotic, and sometimes we just rent a cabin in the mountains for a weekend. The important thing is that we prioritize our relationship and continue to support each other in living authentically. Looking back on that devastating phone call that changed everything, I realized that being excluded from Madison's wedding was the best thing that ever happened to both of us. It forced me to discover my own strength and worth, and it showed Madison what happens when you sacrifice your real relationships for fake ones. I learned that sometimes the best gift you can give people is your absence when they do not value your presence. I discovered that being excluded from the wrong table means you are free to find your own feast. Most importantly, I realized that the vacation I took to heal from rejection became the trip that saved my family. Derek's abandonment ended up saving Madison from a lifetime of pretending to be someone else, and my refusal to immediately rescue everyone taught my family that my love and support were valuable enough to be treated with respect. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be exactly what you needed to finally start living your real life. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have rushed home immediately when your family needed you, or would you have taken time to set boundaries first? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and hit that like button if this story reminded you that your worth does not depend on other people's approval. Do not forget to subscribe for more stories about finding strength in difficult situations, and share this with anyone who needs to hear that sometimes walking away is the first step toward finding your way back home. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve relationships that celebrate who you truly are, not just what you can do for others.